evidence up, tie up the people who were at the house with those strips of bed sheets.
He terrorized 5 separate people, 3 of whom were families with children. He tied them up, he used weapons, he threatened them, and he stole from them.
Brooke Envik was a victim of one of those home invasions.
It's just indescribable. I mean, you feel like your home is where you're safe.
After the robbery, Brooke found forensic evidence the perpetrator had left behind.
And we noticed that 2 cigarette butts were in the garage. We don't smoke, and none of our friends who had been at the house recently smoke.
DNA from the saliva on the cigarette butts matched Joe Luna. Just 5 days after Michael Andrade's murder, Joe Luna was arrested and charged with the crime.
Did you kill your neighbor?
I never kill nobody, period. I don't ever see myself in a position where I would have to do something like that.
Despite his denials, Joe Luna was facing a possible death sentence.
The universe has a sense of humor, especially when it comes to cars. As soon as a warranty expires, things start to break and those repairs are no longer covered. CarShield picks up where your warranty leaves off, with service plans that cover expensive repairs, coverage that could save you thousands of dollars. They pay your favorite mechanic or dealership directly, making the entire process fast and easy. Get a free quote by calling 800-416-6522 or visit carshield.com.
The forensic evidence painted a vivid picture of Joe Luna's movements on the morning of Michael Andrade's murder. Prosecutors believe Joe Luna spent most of his time inside his girlfriend's apartment since he knew there were warrants out for his arrest on the robbery cases. With nothing to do, he discovered there was an attic and crawl space above the apartment. So he looked around and discovered there was another apartment just 60 feet away, Michael Andrade's apartment. Prosecutors believe he opened the panel in Michael's bedroom closet, and when he didn't hear any sound, dropped in. But Michael was sleeping and the noise woke him up. There was a struggle. Luna tore the bedsheets, bound Michael's hands behind his back, and strangled him to death, fearing that Michael could identify him. To mask the evidence, he set fire to the clothes in Michael's closet and returned to his girlfriend's apartment through the crawl space. When he didn't hear the fire alarm sound, he suspected the fire went out, so he returned to Michael's apartment to start the fire again. He stole Michael's computer, electronic equipment, and his car keys. Before leaving, he set the 2 additional fires. When Luna returned to his girlfriend's apartment, he shed fibers from Michael's apartment, which he tried to remove with his girlfriend's vacuum cleaner. And he put his jeans into the clothes hamper, which had the burned insulation on them.
Having that forensics evidence in your back pocket as an investigator is just something that you can't overcome. When it's on your clothing, there's a real hard hurdle to overcome to say that I didn't do it now.
During her police interrogation, Maria Solis eventually admitted that Luna had confessed.
Well, it's like I went into an apartment. And he's just like, well, somebody was there when I got there. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, well, they saw me. It's like, so, it's like I had to do what I had to do. I'm like, what are you talking about?
What did you think in your mind that he did?
That he had hurt somebody, that he had done what he did to this boy. I don't like to say the four-letter
I need
word.
you to say the word.
That he had taken this person's life.
Joe Luna headed for trial insisting he was innocent. But the forensic evidence caused him to reconsider.
The fiber evidence that was found and the fiber evidence that I had looked at was apparently so compelling that the defendant didn't want to continue on with this case, which is quite unusual for a capital murder trial.
So Luna changed his plea to guilty and admitted what he had done in open court.
Sure, how you pleaded the charges in count one?
He testified that he enjoyed it, that he lived for the adrenaline rush that it gave him to victimize people and to get away with it. I cannot fathom the terror that that young man went through. And really, there could be nothing worse than seeing a Joe Luna walk out of your closet.
In March of 2006, Luna asked the jury to give him the death penalty. They willingly obliged.
There are certain people in our society that have absolutely forfeited their right to live among us by their own actions and by their own decisions. Joe Luna is one of those people.
Ironically, Joe Luna tried to cover up his crime by burning the evidence, but he didn't destroy it. Instead, he made those tiny glass insulation fibers more distinctive.
It was actually the last way I thought that they would catch him. That was furthest from my mind, that it would be in a vacuum.
You have to have the forensics. You have to have the evidence that can't skip town. You have to have the evidence that can't lie to you.
As my old professor once said, there is no such thing as a perfect crime. That you can plan, you can calculate, you can try to manipulate the circumstances or the surroundings, but you'll always leave a piece of trace evidence behind.
The new CNN original series Diana introduces viewers to the person behind the princess and reveals a life more complicated and fascinating than the world knew. Diana, Sundays at 9 on CNN.